YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And I have two podcasts. One is Recovering Perfectionist Mama, Grace in Progress, which is a psychology channel that dives into all sorts of topics on psychology, such as family roles, fake niceness, perfectionism, coping mechanisms, manipulation tactics, and various other topics that you might be interested in. It's housed on YouTube here. It's recovering_perfectionist_mama, which is what you're likely seeing on this site here. And then the second one is a true crime podcast that I've just revived. It is Grace and Gavel, where truth meets compassion. I'm an almost 18-year criminal defense attorney, and I cover topics not only about cases, but I also cover legal topics that you might not be aware of or you might not know about. And that is called Grace and Gavel. So today we're talking about why people don't trust their instincts in dangerous situations. And unfortunately, this is very much the rule rather than the exception. There are some people who are tied into their intuition and use their intuition naturally because that's what they've been brought up to do. That's what they've grown up doing. That's what they've seen modeled for them. I am actually one of those people. My great-grandmother, which I called my mammy, and my grandmother were very intuitive people. They listened to their gut. They listened to what people said, but not only that, but their actions. And they paid special attention to certain things that other people might not notice because they believed that oftentimes a woman's survival depended on that. And I was taught that. I was taught to kind of look and trust my gut because my great-grandmother used to always say, if you're not trusting your gut, then you're in potential danger. And I essentially always looked at my gut as an internal protection system for me. From a very young age, I would get feelings in my abdomen area, my gut area, and would essentially feel like a gut punch because I had actually had a bad feeling and I trusted it. And 9 times out of 10, it was right. The disaster came when I didn't listen to my gut and ultimately, found out. So good afternoon, guys. My name is Buffy. Welcome. Today we're talking about why people don't trust their instincts in dangerous situations. If you have ever had a gut feeling on something and you've ignored it and experienced disastrous results, I'm with you. I used to do this same exact thing and wonder why things weren't working as I thought that they should. But ultimately, I come from a long line of women who actually learned to trust their gut. And my great-grandmother, who I call my mammy, actually used to always say, you have to trust your gut, right? So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt something was off and talked yourself out of it? If you have, you're not alone. And that doesn't make you a bad person. Ultimately, the problem with this is it's normal to disregard your gut feeling because that's what society wants us to do. That's what we're taught. Because really, what could your gut actually know that you don't know? What could your gut actually pick up on that you haven't picked up on? Actually, more than you might realize, because your gut actually knows things before we do, right? So if you get that little punch in your gut or you get that little instinct that something is off, you should trust it because learning to trust yourself is extremely important. And your gut is your internal protection system to protect you, right? And so ultimately, let's normalize this because it's truthful, right? You don't want to overreact. So if you have a bad feeling at this person following you in the parking lot, you don't want to make a huge deal about it. You might be misjudging them. They seem nice. They're smiling at me. Sure. But think about this. If this person is actually a predator, are they going to tell you, hey, I'm a predator? Hey, I'm trying to stalk you, or whatever reason. But this is normal to feel like you could be wrong. It's normal to feel like, I'm overreacting because oftentimes, especially if you're a woman, you have been conditioned to be nice, to not raise suspicion, to go with the flow, to not insult someone, to not be wrong, not to embarrass yourself, right? Because you don't know this person, you just met them. Like, how can you judge them already? Well, I have a bad feeling. Something is off. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it right now, but I know that something is off. And women are generally pretty intuitive. especially for safety reasons and especially for other reasons, right? So also know that we see this pattern not just in life, but in real cases. I mean, think about Ted Bundy, for instance. He was extremely attractive, which was an advantage for him, a disadvantage for his victims. And so people were afraid of being wrong about him. I mean, he was handsome, he was well spoken, until all of a sudden you get in the car with him and you realize who he really was. But that's who he was. He disarmed people with his appearance, with his ruses of, oh, I need help with my sailboat. Oh, I have a broken arm. Oh, I have this. I need you to get, get in my car for me and like help me get in. All of those things. Those were all ruses. Those were all lies. And his appearance helped him seamlessly get through society and get breaks because of how he looked. And so oftentimes the biggest monster could be the most attractive person in the room, right? Appearance doesn't mean that you're safe, but that disarmed people. Hello, how are you, Owen? And for instance, I saw a story about one of his first victims where he was going to take her to the zoo and he ended up bypassing the zoo. And she was so afraid to say something to him because she's like, he was attractive, like he was talking to me. He was really great and everything. And then all of a sudden, she noticed that he stopped talking to her and he would not talk to her. She also noticed that there was no handle in the car. So her fear was this handsome boy who I could potentially date, I don't know, and he's talking to me and he's nice. I don't want to upset him. I don't want to offend him, right? Also, too, you think about ignoring a gut feeling and then regretting it. And many of us have been through that. When I was much younger, I used to do that a lot because I thought it was bunk in some ways. But I've since learned that every time I disregard my gut feeling, whether it's about a person, whether it's about a situation. My mom even said to me the other day, she's like, your intuition has always been spot on. I don't know why you don't trust it more, right? Yeah, and I'm like, well, things happen. I think that we oftentimes don't realize how important it is. And honestly, your gut knows before your brain does. Your brain is catching up, And so ultimately, the way to do that, if you've never really worked on like building your intuition and trusting your gut, it just starts like one step at a time. Like start listening to what it says. Are you going to be right 100% of the time? Who knows? But you might be, and if you have a gut feeling and don't trust that something is wrong, trust that. Especially if you're alone at night by yourself or you're dealing with something like you're in a parking lot and you don't know what's going on. Trust that. Trust that for your safety. Don't second guess yourself. As long as you're not announcing it to the world or calling the police and falsely accusing someone, that's fine. But trust yourself, right? Because that's what you got. You're going to be with yourself the rest of your life. Trust yourself, right? I had a scenario one time where I had someone approach me when I was in college, and he was very frantic. And he said something along the lines of, I need somebody to drive me to the next street over. He's like, I will pay you like $50. And I was like, no, I'm sorry, my car's like dirty. And I was always disorganized. And so I said, no, my car is full. I can't. And I walked into the store, and it wasn't until I walked into the store that like it all came at me at once, just because I'd heard him, but I hadn't really heard him. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And so I walked into the store and I'm thinking, why are you going to pay me $50 to drive you a street over? That does not make any sense. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, especially because I went to school, we had transit. So he could have gotten transit, right? So that moment of me being like lost in my thoughts actually, I think, helped me, right? And so the other thing is, oftentimes predators are able to manipulate us because they put on a nice air. They seem like they're nice people. They dress like respectable people. They're kind to us. But that is because they want something. They want to disarm us. They want to convince us, hey, I'm a nice guy. They may even say that. They may even offer many compliments. They may even say, hey, are you hungry? Do you want to get something to eat? Do you want to go to my place? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Right? And once you're in their environment, you have no choice, And I know, like, for instance, and I had a scenario one time where I had actually said that I would go with someone somewhere because, you're young, you're in college, all this. And I literally put my hand on the door handle and something pushed me away. And I was like, okay, I'll drive, And I truly think that was intervention, truly. Think I'm crazy, whatever, I don't care. But I truly think that was intervention. And so I ended up, going, and it was a disaster. He was a very chauvinistic person. And ultimately, I'm like, well, thank goodness that I did not get in that car and I drove myself, because I would not have had an option to go anywhere but where he wanted to go. And he wanted me to go to his apartment. And I was like, no, 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 no. Even got on my car and I was like, you know what? You need to get off my car, or I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to Denny's and I'm going to tell them that you won't get off my car. And then, of course, he wanted to call me choice names and then, all that. So ultimately, trust your gut, because you don't want to end up in an undesirable situation that you have no way of getting out of, and no one knows where you are. And you just got to be, safe. Anyone ever second guessed yourself on a decision? Feel free to put a 1 if you like. And ultimately, it's not because you're weak that you're not trusting your intuition. It's because you've been conditioned. You've been told to, like, that's silly. Some people don't even believe in that. But a lot of people know that our body works to help us out ultimately. And I think that that's extremely important to realize that, and to start working on flexing that muscle and building that muscle, because that is what can keep you safe. And also teaching your girls that it's really important to trust your intuition, to see your surroundings and know what exactly you're doing, you know what I mean, and where you're at and where you're going. And oftentimes the most important thing you can do is to trust yourself and start trusting yourself and believing in your intuition and going with your gut, right? That's what keeps you safe. And so ultimately, I think that's probably the best thing that can happen there. And I just want to say thank you for tuning in today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope that you'll come back and see me again soon. I do psychology stuff. I do true crime stuff. And so let's talk about when a case doesn't add up, what are we missing? Some cases aren't unsolved because there's no evidence. They're unsolved because the evidence doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. For instance, Maura Murray and Brianna Maitland, if you've heard of that case, they both disappeared around the same time, 2004. Maura Murray had some issues that she was dealing with regarding misuse of a credit card, also boyfriend issues, issues with her sister, and things like that. And there are scenes and there are timelines, but something breaks in the middle. So ultimately, there was not a lot of evidence to support what occurred. No footprints, nothing. So cases like that can be extremely difficult to navigate. And you have abandoned vehicles, short time windows, no confirmed direction. What did the police do from there? Don't know. So I just want to say that I will actually be following up on the Maura Murray story here very soon in a reel, and I think probably on TikTok here, and maybe Instagram, and going into that as well. So I just want to say thank you all for tuning in, and I appreciate your time and I appreciate your support, and I hope that you'll come back and see me again soon. If you have any story ideas, feel free to drop them on my YouTube page. I definitely look at that and I engage in that if you see that. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye. Welcome to 87 Lightning.